The federal government spends 3.9 trillion naira in 5 months. Katsina, Bayelsa, 3 other states insolvent as federal accounts lean. Ahead of resumption of international flights, federal government to fine airlines $3,500 per passenger for non-compliance with a COVID-19 test. Plus, stock market defies negative GDP. It appreciated yesterday by 0.03%. This is Business Express, and it is coming to you from Abuja, Nigeria's capital. And I am Liakatun Babatunde. Now, thank you. Yesterday, we started a conversation around Nigeria's gross domestic product, which declined by 6.1% in the second quarter of the year 2020. And of course, today we're taking the conversation further to look at the desired fiscal measures to stem this decline, and also to see how the third quarter of 2020 will look like. While painting the scenario, we'll be joined in our Kaduna studio by Dr. Muhammad Sani Bello of the Kaduna State University. Now, Doctor, you're welcome to Business Express.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now, 6.1% is the contraction, and of course 6.63% is the level to which the oil GDP declined in the second quarter of 2020. If I'm going to ask this question, what is the role of oil to Nigeria's economy?
Thank you very much. Indeed, the decline in the oil did not start in the second quarter of 2020. It has been the trend since the year 2017. And what we have witnessed in the second quarter is another decline, which indeed is not so new as it were. However, if you look at the contribution of oil to the GDP, it just contributes about 9% of the Nigeria's economy. And that means if we have had a situation whereby we recorded positive growth in the non-oil sector, which accounts for 91% of the total GDP, we wouldn't have experienced any, we wouldn't be worried. But it so happened that in the second quarter, not only that the oil sector declined, the non-oil sector also declined by 6.05%. So this is a real worry area, and this is what I believe all uh, experts and government will need to come forward with solution so that we avert this negative trend in the second and the third quarter and up to the end of the year. To my mind, I want us to look at what happens in other climes, just our neighbors here in Africa. If you take the example of South Africa's second quarter GDP grew by 3.1%. And how did they do it? They actually concentrated in the non-oil sector. Of course, South Africa is not an oil dominant economy. They actually, did well in mining, in manufacturing. This is what accounted for the 3.1% growth. Now, if we come to our closer neighbor, Ghana recorded 10.6% decline, unfortunately. And the time it took Ghana to lock down the economy due to the COVID-19 pandemic was shorter than that of Nigeria.
Mohammed, can I just cut you in now? We have the Minister of Finance. I understand she's ready for us and she's joining us on Zoom. The Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Zainab Ahmed. She is joining us now. So let me get her views and then we come back to you. So, Minister, you're welcome this morning to Business Express.
Thank you very much for inviting me, Leah. Good morning.
Okay, good. So 6.1%, did you actually envisage this steep fall, this decline in the second quarter of 2020?
Yes, we did actually. It's actually better than what we expected. Our estimation was that the GDP for the whole of 2020 will close at negative 4.4%. Right now, if you average the first quarter and the second quarter of 2020, the average is at minus 2.18%. So it actually outperformed, the country actually outperformed our projections, which is good. We're expecting that Q3 will be much better than Q2. And therefore, we're also expecting that by Q4, we should be able to exit recession.
So what are your immediate steps now to keep the economy on track and to ensure that we don't get this type of a record in this third quarter? Do you have any immediate steps?
So what we're doing is to reflate the economy by infusing a lot of funding to ignite economic activities. We're implementing the Economic Sustainability Plan, which has been approved and also actually passed into the provisions for the funding have been passed into the amended Appropriation Act for 2020. We've started the implementation. We've started releasing funds to the agencies. We've also released funds for capital projects. At least every capital project has 50% of what is in the 2020 revised budget. So there's going to be a lot of economic activity, which will create jobs and also revive sectors that are ailing and put income into the hands of people, and that will increase consumption.
So, ma'am, there's also the school of thought that believes Nigeria is not an industrialized economy, which is why the COVID-19 hit us this hard. Are we going to see maybe some form of policy shift or realignment to stir up the needed private sector activity for increased revenue generation?
Well, the ERGP, which is expiring this year, and we're developing the next successor plan to it, has always had a target of encouraging the private sector to invest in the economy alongside government. So a principle of PPP has always existed. One of the key implementation priorities of the ERGP is industrialization, and manufacturing, with special emphasis on small, medium enterprises. So what we've done is, in terms of improved fiscal provisions for MSMEs by reducing their taxes and also giving a lot of tax incentives to industry, is all designed to help industry to grow. The monetary authorities have provided several packets of funding that are low cost and designed to be easy to access, to help companies get working capital, renew their inventory, as well as also expand their production lines. All of that is targeted at making sure that industry is revived and survives and expanded, so that it will encourage, so the industry will engage more people. But talking about industry, Leah, this global pandemic is not affecting just countries like Nigeria that are not classified as industrialized nations. It has also affected the most industrialized nations of the world today. Today, the US economy has gone into a recession as deep as 34%. UK is as deep as about 20% plus. Nigeria, so far, of all the economies, and South Africa's GDP is projected to go into a recession of between 20 to 50%. So Nigeria's economy is the only one so far of results that have been released that has a report that is considered a good one. If you look at all of the advanced economies, their recession levels are at two digits. Nigeria is at minus 6%. That's the least so far. And within the African continent, we're also watching to see what is going to happen as more GDP results are released in the next couple of weeks.
Okay, so before we let you go, do you think that the target of hitting 15%, because it was part of your presentation sometime last month, 15% revenue to GDP ratio by 2023, with what we have on ground now, is it still attainable?
No, it's not. It's not. We are having to reset our plans. Just we have had to revise the MTEP, we have had to revise the budget, and also now, as we're developing the new plan, we have already an approved macroeconomic framework that we're using to project how and when we'll get to that 15% revenue to GDP. Certainly, it won't be to 2023 because of this very significant.
Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Zainab Ahmed, thank you for joining us on Business Express this morning.
Thank you very much for having me. Have a good day.
Thank you. And so we're going to move back to Kaduna, where Dr. Mohammed Bello is seated. Thank you, Doctor, for still hanging in there. Did you get any perspectives from the minister? And she just revealed that the 15% ratio of revenue to GDP by 2023 target is no more feasible. Can you give us, weigh in your perception on that?
I think it's good that the Minister of Finance is on top of the job. They are able to know when things will go wrong, and they of course have a plan on how to mitigate for such a situation. So I think we are not bad. We are not in a bad shape with what the Honorable Minister has just mentioned. However, I think one area that can be looked into with regards to repleting the economy, in addition to the 2.3 trillion stimulus package, is for federal government to look into the issue of payment of national debts. There are so many debts that have been filed up, especially for contracts, services rendered by small and medium enterprises. The 2.3 trillion package has not said anything about what is to be done regarding payment for such debt. Some of the enterprises actually borrowed funds from the financial services industry, and they are accumulating huge interest. So government will do well by coming up with a strategy to reduce that national pile of national debt significantly. So many people have been complaining. Of course, there is the issue that some of those debts have not been certified. Some of them were accumulated over a period before the emergence of the current administration. But notwithstanding, I believe that once these people who have provided services are paid, that will be another way of injecting money into the economy, and they will pay their debts to the services, financial service industry. They will also be able to engage their staff and continue with their production and service business. So this one area I think that can help regarding the revenue issue to GDP. Of course, as you know, once businesses perform.
Can I just comment here? Do you see Nigeria's economy dipping at this steep level we recorded in the second quarter, considering that we're already easing and of course the airports are about to be open? Do you see that, what is your take? Are we going to fall this deep at the end of this quarter?
I think really we should expect that the economy is going to become vibrant in the coming days because with the opening of all the services, hotels, restaurants, all the non-oil sector services are now going to come up in the coming days. So we hope that as the minister has projected, we are going to witness a kind of boost in the economy in the third quarter and then coming up to the fourth quarter.
I would also want to find out from you, we noticed some sectors increased. It's not all bad news. So what actually did COVID-19 have? What is the impact it had on health and pharmaceutical sectors, and can it be improved upon?
The one that is very interesting and one can easily explain it is the one relating to the telecommunication sector. It has recorded growth of about 20%, and we can see it from the fact that during this lockdown period, a lot of data has been used. People communicate rather through the telephone services as opposed to moving physically due to the lockdown. So even with the ease of lockdown, I think there is now a new shift in the way businesses are being done. We can see that the Honorable Minister joined us via Zoom. This wouldn't have been the case before COVID, perhaps. So many businesses and meetings, conferences are now being held through the medium of Zoom. And of course, that means the use of more data. So with this shift in the way we do business, we expect that particularly the telecommunication sector will continue to record a boost in terms of its contribution to GDP.
Submission. So we could just wrap up this discussion. What way can the subnational governments, the states, the local governments, build complementary revenue as the center, the treasury seems to be so much, everything seems to be concentrated around the federal government and of course the federation accounts of the nation?
National economy is really, all they need to do is to look at what the federal government is doing and then see what they can do at their own level. Because the economy is one, Nigeria is one entity, and the real policy thrust of the administration drives from top and then goes down. So all the efforts of the federal government, state needs to look at them and then to see what is peculiar to their own state and also connect with such a national policies. For example, when it comes to the issue of repleting the economy, even at state levels, there are so many debts, for services provided in the past. State governments will be encouraged to also look at, paying some of those debts, because it's going to help the economy. It will inject resources into the economy. They also need to look into how they create more jobs, so that people will have jobs, and it will reduce the number of those who are unemployed. And those who are unemployed, by the time they get employed, they will be able to also contribute to the economy. So every aspect of.
Okay, thank you very much, Doctor. Thank you very much. And we thank you for coming on the program this morning. We'll be joining you, of course, subsequently. Thank you, Dr. Muhammad Bello. He joined us from Kaduna.
My pleasure.
Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission RMAFC has raised the alarm that the Federation account is stressed. The RMAFC said this is coming on the heels of demand made on the account by the three tiers of government. To reduce the stress, its chairman Elias Mbam has called on state governments to develop strategies to boost their internally generated revenue IGR. He spoke while receiving an annual State Viability Index ASVI from the editor-in-chief of the Economic Confidential, Mr. Yeshau Shuaib, in his office in Abuja. The overdependence in the monthly Federation accounts allocation, Mbam said, has made it imperative for state governments to boost their IGR. He said the annual ASVI report, apart from providing a good source of information to the general public, also has been identified as a source of information that will drive RMAFC on its mandate to encourage states of the Federation to improve their IGR. The report shows that only Rivers, Kaduna, Enugu, Kwara, and Zamfara states did well on revenue generation last year compared to their IGR in the previous year, 2018, by improving more than 10%. Gold edged higher on Tuesday as the dollar dipped, with investors awaiting U.S. Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell's speech later this week, while a rally in equity markets limited bullion's advance. Stocks in Europe and the U.S. move higher in early trade Tuesday as investors await housing data this morning. Muplang Dakok has a summary of market activities across the globe.
In Asian markets, stocks closed positive. Stocks in Japan led gains among the region's major markets, with the Nikkei 225 jumping 1.35%. Chinese stocks, on the other hand, were mixed. The Shanghai Composite fell 0.36%, while Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index edged about 0.5% lower. U.S. stock futures were lower on Tuesday morning as traders await a key speech from the Federal Reserve Chairman, Jerome Powell, later this week. European stocks, on the other hand, opened higher in early Tuesday trade, following upbeat trade in markets in the U.S. and Asia. London's FTSE opened 26 points higher at 6,130. Germany's DAX went up 110 points at 13,174, while the CAC 40 of France inched up 29 points. Most African stocks were off to a slow start, but yet to post numbers. With Global Update, Moplang Dakok.
Now, this is where we end this episode of the program. Don't forget, you can access these and all previous episodes on YouTube, and you can also communicate with us on Twitter. The handle is NTA News Now. The hashtag is BizX. We value your feedback. Do join us again Wednesday at 3 p.m. as we continue to fight against COVID-19. Remember to keep social distance and always wash your hands with soap on the running water. I am Leah Katung. Baba Tunde.